I'm Natalie from the Teen Arts Council, and we're here with Swoon. This is...
I'm August from the Teen Arts Council.
Hello,
Yeah.
I'm Callie.
Alright, so we're here in Central Square in Cambridge, Massachusetts, and our first question for you is basically a simple question: what got you into street art, and what got you into art?
Well, I've been drawing since I was a kid. I think like most artists, I've always been making art, but I got interested in making art outside when I moved to New York City, because I'm from kind of a small town and I had never even seen like people making things that you could just see in your daily life. And something about seeing the city changed my perspective a lot, and I felt like I needed to make something that was part of my life and part of people's daily lives, and working outside seemed like a kind of obvious way to do that. I just wanted to make something which was a part of something else, that was like a part of its environment, a part of the world, because a lot of times when you're making art you can feel like it's not relevant to anything else, and so the like placing it within the landscape of the city just like rooted it in something and then also communicated with people, and I like that.
Did you come from any background that made you really want to focus on people or anything, or is it just something you picked up along the way?
I think that just slowly, like as I started working outside, I started organizing things with friends, and then I realized how much more you can do if you do it together.
Well, you have this exhibit at the ICA called The Anthropocene Extinction.
Yeah.
I spent a lot of time dissecting this title.
Uh-huh.
So the Anthropocene is kind of when humans are taking over, basically.
Are so impactful.
On the environment.
You know, it's difficult, but I think that it definitely ties in the way that it's trying to look at a situation and trying to say like, how can we in our own lives try and change things? You know, and then there's the larger questions of like, you know, big corporations, big government, which is a different question than how can we as individuals, and is equally, if not more important.
Did you ever have like an interest in science or anything too? Or
Yeah.
You do that a lot, right? Like integrate science into your work.
Well, I don't know if I exactly integrate science into my work. I just know that I'm really curious, and so I'm always learning things. And like Pedro was like I got a microscope for this project to just look at things, to just be like, what does the world look like magnified? And like, I remember when I was little, my mom was like, what do you want to do? And I was like either be a science teacher or be an artist. So I ended up being an artist.
We kind of combined both.
But there's definitely like still just that like intense curiosity about the world, which I think is like that's what the sciences and the arts really share.
So when you start a new project, it's not really prior research that you do. It just comes to you like that. Was the Anthropocene something that you looked up?
No, that's like something I've been hearing about for years. Like people were talking about it as the sixth extinction it was being called. And I think when I first started to read about it years ago, it was one of those things where, you know, I was like, is this really happening? Is this real? It sounds really immense. Can this be true? And I think that that's the way a lot of people feel right now. But after I read about it enough times and enough context, I began to believe that it really is, you know, something that can't be ignored. And so I just decided to really like give myself an opportunity to think about it really in depth through creating an artwork.
And the Rockaway Armada, it was something that can't really be put into a museum. So what's it like now having the Anthropocene in extinction in a museum?
I mean, you know, it's like it's really awesome in a way, because you get to make something that's as delicate and as fragile and as like detailed as you want it to be, and you know that it's going to be safe. Like our boats, the Rockaway boats, were burned down and cut loose from shore because we had them docked in a public place for the winter. And so like, you know, you're just subject to the forces of the world, and so you have a lot more awesome interactions, and then you also have you face a lot more destruction, and so you know, it's like museum, I feel like it's just a different kind of a setting, and it's really great for some things, and it's like not as amazing for other things. And you know, I just appreciate like what the ICA is trying to do here in Boston, and working with people, and like just being like a kind of an open like cultural institution. And like I think a lot of people are afraid that the whole movement will just be co-opted, and I don't think it will. I think that people's desires to make things in public, to make things outside, whether it's legal or not, and to participate in their world and just like make their mark, and like maybe be a little destructive and maybe be a little mischievous, and like whatever it is, I feel like that's so universal to people, that like this fear that it'll be co-opted by a gallery sort of, or museums kind of taking that culture, it doesn't seem like, it doesn't really exactly ring true. And like certainly when I first started to work in museums, I had to gut check a lot, like, is this okay?
So you don't really think that fame and commercialization, you know, of some type of street arts kind of affects the integrity of the artwork? You think that happens with some contemporary artists?
I mean, it sort of depends upon like what's going on in the minds of people who are seeing it. But I feel like the main thing is it has always been about working outside is just like creating stuff that participates in the life of the city, and that people, it's still all about people who wouldn't necessarily feel comfortable in cultural institutions, who don't have the time, who don't feel like it's like part of their way of thinking, part of their way of life, maybe don't feel like even accepted in those places, but there's still things like in their neighborhoods, like on their walls, like there to greet them, you know. And like I've had so many conversations while I'm putting up work outside that like, you know, I was like, it doesn't matter, like this guy doesn't care like about any of the hype. All he sees is like me putting this up, and he's like, oh my god, that's beautiful, who's that for? And I'm like, it's for you. And he's like, oh, all right, you know. And like it's just like I feel like that's really pure, and like there's something about that that like can't really be, probably I shouldn't say that.
Can we keep
it
it?
Can't really be messed with. You can bleep. Can you just bleep it? Because I think it was an important quote there.
Yeah. What other street artists like influenced you? Like Keith Haring, ICA.
Revs. Do you know Revs?
Yeah,
He did the roller pieces. He like was like one of the early people doing like bill sticking, does metal sculptures. He wrote his entire life story one page at a time in the subway tunnels. Yeah, amazing. He was like my favorite. And actually, it was Gordon Matta Clark was my biggest influence. And he was a sculptor that would like chainsaw up buildings in the 70s. He would like take buildings that were slated for demolition, and then he would cut huge sections out of the buildings, and like all of a sudden the building would be a sculpture, and there would be light pouring through, and you'd see the water underneath.
Whoa,
it was just like so beautiful and so simple, and also so impermanent. And those were the things for me where I was like, I felt like I wanted to like imbibe those principles of like making something with the city and also making something temporary. And I, you know, and I was like, I'm not a sculptor, but I draw, and like this is the way that this is what I have to make, this is what I have to offer. And so I just tried to, I would say he was one of my biggest inspirations. And then of course like all the people that were up in New York at that time, which is like Shepard, WK, like, you know, a bunch of people.
Did you sort of like do it on your own, or did you go to any art school or anything?
Yeah, I went to Pratt, and I took one printmaking class, and I just remember one of my teachers was like, he was like this awesome old dude from Florida, and he used to call me kudzu, which is like a vine that takes over everything, and he was like, you all spread out everywhere. So one time he was like to the class, he was like, now y'all don't do this. My friend did this thing where he took a full 4x8 sheet of plywood and made a print, and he's like, but don't you guys do that, because we don't have space for that here. And like immediately, like my eyes lit up, and I was like, okay, and I like ran home and got like a giant 4x8 of plywood and then just carved it.
What's like a usual day when you're not like off in Venice or New Orleans?
A usual day. If I'm, no, there aren't. There are just different kinds of days. There's like a day when I'm home drawing, where I'll like stay up until 4 or 5 in the morning, and then I wake up late and like drink some coffee and like just like play really depressing music so I can be really calm, just get really focused and just draw and carve all day. Those are actually my favorite days. I love, yeah, that's like really like restores me. That like brings me back to life. And then there's the times when it's like mad installation and you're like, bah, 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 bah. You're just like so, that's the rest of the time. I definitely don't have enough downtime these days. I need a vacation.
Where do you want to go?
Like the woods, maybe.
Somewhere really remote.
Somewhere
middle of nowhere.
really remote. Yeah. Under the, I don't know, yeah. It's hard to synthesize shortly. What would I tell high schoolers? You know, okay. I think this is the thing that my mom told me, and this is the thing that my first love in college told me. And it was completely true, and it was so right. And basically they were like, whatever you want to do, if you're like looking into the future and you're like, it's not going to work out, I won't have enough of this, I won't have enough that, what if it doesn't work? They were like, just start. And my mom said this, and also they said, whatever you're doing, you need to just start it. And then when the world sees that it's awesome, slowly, a little bit at a time, they'll make space for you. And so you just have to make the good thing first, and then all the other details will start to fall into place later. And I think that that's really true. Like whatever you're passionate about, just make it happen, and don't even worry about like if it seems impossible or if it seems unlikely or you're afraid you won't get support for it. It's just like a snowball, and that snowball will just grow and grow and grow. But you have to start with the first little bit. So that's what I would say. Just start.
Words of wise. Thanks, Swoon.
All right, thank you guys.
All right, so that about wraps up our interview. Thanks, Swoon.
All right.
All right, peace.
Good to meet you guys. Thank you very much.
All right, yeah.
You should get in this photo too.
feeling better.